Ladies and gentlemen, we want to welcome you to this presentation by the Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Studies. It's called America's Wall of Political Protection. I'm Dr. Glenn Kimber, the president of the Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Studies. And I'm pleased to be able to present this material to you as we go through talking about the political wall of protection we sometimes call checks and balances. First, having lived under the dictatorial power of a king, the people of the newly established states of America were afraid of a runaway or abusive federal government. So the state leaders took on the responsibility of becoming the wall of protection for the people. America's wall of political protection worked like this. You had the federal government, then you had the states, then you had the people, with the states in between the federal government and the people. They defined in Article 1, Section 8, what the states defined what the federal government is allowed to do. It is interesting that the federal government was granted only 20 powers. It's interesting to go through and see what those 20 powers were. But even after the federal government was granted these 20 powers, many state leaders were still fearful that government would use its power to interfere with individual rights. They therefore adopted the Constitution with the provision that there would be a Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights defines the powers the federal government is not allowed to do. America's wall of political protection then looked like this. You had the Bill of Rights, and it became part of the state responsibilities. And the federal government shall not interfere with freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, etc. Now, America's wall of protection ensures a balance of power. But what does balance of power mean, and how is it achieved? Under the Constitution, the structure of the federal government creates a balance of power. To keep the government in balance, a system of checks was created by the founders. Here is how it works. This is the balance. The House of Representatives, that represents the people, is voted in by the people and has the responsibility to protect the rights of the people. On the other side, we have the Senate, is selected by state legislators and has the responsibility to protect and represent the states' rights. And the president would be the administrator on behalf of the House and the Senate. Now these are the checks to ensure the balance. The House of Representatives has veto power over the Senate and over the president. The Senate has veto power over the House and over the President. And the President can veto the House and the Senate. What this would do is that this balance of power ensures that no laws can be passed upon the people unless the people's rights and the states' rights are protected and satisfied. Hence, the states say we are protected, happy, and satisfied. The people say we are protected, happy, and satisfied because of the checks and balances. Now, to further understand this, let's look at some of the main responsibilities and duties of the House of Representatives. Remember, they have power to veto. It has the power to tax the states, has power to spend, power to borrow, is responsible for the general welfare of the nation, and commits the states, handles external affairs that deal with more than one state. Now the responsibilities of the Senate. The senators are to be the sentinels of states' rights. He is selected by the state legislators. He is selected every 6 years. He is more mature. He has more experience. He's more stable because only 1/3 are selected every 2 years. And the Senate has the task of cooling the emotions of the House, as Washington explained to Jefferson. And the Supreme Court, their members are the watchdogs responsible to see that provisions of the Constitution are maintained. Experience has demonstrated that anything more or less than this will come of evil. Constitutional authorities have pointed out that the 100 major problems facing America today are all the result of our ignoring or abandoning the principles of the original Constitution. How did it happen? After 130 years of constitutional success, the balance of power came under severe attack. The shift away from the balance of power entered when the people were taxed directly instead of taxing on the states. This happened with the 16th Amendment, when it shot a hole directly through the protective wall at the poor taxpayer, stealing his money as the people are taxed directly. This the Founding Fathers would call taxation without representation. This same year, the states' rights were virtually destroyed. This was done by the 17th Amendment. When the 17th Amendment came, aimed directly at the senators, knocking them right off the wall. The power was taken away from the state legislatures to select senators. Power was given to the people to elect their senators. Is that bad? Well, the senators thus had to create ways to spend money in the states in order to get reelected. The senators were forced to provide jobs instead of protecting jobs. The incentive to watch over their state was abandoned. Senators then bribed their voters with promises to spend tax money on them. They needed to do that in order to get reelected. This procedure for bribing the voters was explained by Harry Hopkins, advisor to Franklin D. Roosevelt. Hopkins told elected officials, including the president, the secret to getting reelected. Here was his counsel in his exact words. See if this doesn't sound familiar today. The secret to reelection, he said, is to tax the few, then spend the money on the many. Hence, you'd elect the incumbent. How were these false concepts even sold to the people? Look at the wall leaning, the people running away. But notice the confidence of the Congress and the Senate. The congressman said, because we love you. And the senator said, we will take care of you. They first gave us OSHA. And it was the National Education Association. The Federal Reserve System would come in and take over all of our economy. We would spend money with the EPA within. We would have a HUD. We could go on and on with all of these kinds of things like FEMA. But now recently, the big one, the national health care. Where are we? America's wall of protection is in peril, leaning heavily over towards we the people. Wow. We become smashed with taxes, federal debt, total control. We the people could just cry out, help. The wall of protection was destroyed with the consent of the Supreme Court, you notice. Now there are no longer any checks. There's no longer a balance. Total political control has been transferred to Washington, D.C. Excessive debt has been forced onto us and our posterity. The wall must be repaired, but who is going to do it? Will you be one of those? We, the people, must now restore America's wall of political protection. Among many other things, here's a beginning. We need to turn to our Creator, for from Him we receive our unalienable rights. We need to reinforce our religious liberties. vote for power in the people again. We have to repeal the 17th Amendment so we can rebuild states' rights. We have to repeal the 16th Amendment and restore the free enterprise system. We must stand the wall back up, heal it, and we must work together. All of this is only the beginning, however. It will not be easy, but must be done. Jefferson said in his time, we are not to expect to be translated from despotism to liberty in a feather bed. We go from here. Where do we start? We, the people, will do it. The Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Studies will help lead the way with Healing of America seminars, candidate certification seminars, voter certification, constitutional classes, current events newsletters, instructions on how to take action. It's only the beginning, but it can be done. Yes, we can heal America. The Thomas Jefferson Center for Constitutional Studies can make it happen with people just like you. So if you really love America, if you love the founding fathers and have confidence in them like we do, if you are concerned about our country and would like to be part of the healing of America, join with the Thomas Jefferson Center. Learn with like-minded people how to reestablish the Constitution as the guiding law of our land. We can put America back on the path to prosperity and success. Government based on the Constitution